artificial, system online.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are locking the doors and pulling down the shades because we need to have a pretty serious conversation.
Yeah, this one feels a little different.
It does. We are continuing our journey through the Surviving AI curriculum from Carlo Thompson. And if you've been with us for the whole series, you know the drill by now. This is not about science fiction. It's not about what might happen someday.
No, it is about the reality of the calendar on the wall. It is January 2026. And, the buffer time, that grace period we all thought we had.
It's over.
It's over.
Exactly. So just to orient everyone, this is episode 9 of the series. Last time in episode 8, we covered skilled trades. We talked about the plumbers, the electricians, the people doing the, let's say, dirty jobs that AI really can't touch yet.
The physical jobs.
And we talked about why those represent this massive $100,000 opportunity. But today we are coming back inside. Back into the air conditioning.
We are coming back to the office, the land of keyboards and cubicles.
We are. The title of this deep dive is Corporate Survival: How to Keep Your White-Collar Job When AI Comes for Your Department.
And honestly, looking at this stack of reports you sent over, the industry memos, and of course the Carlo Thompson curriculum itself, this might be the most urgent episode we've ever done.
I would agree with that. I really would. The skilled trades episode was about finding opportunity in a completely different sector. This episode is about defense.
Defense.
It's about holding your ground. It's about survival in a landscape that is, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, shifting violently under our feet.
The core premise of all the source material we're looking at today is, it's terrifyingly simple. It says the revolution isn't coming, it is here, full stop.
Right.
And it poses this question that I think every single person listening, anyone with a laptop and a salary, needs to answer, and answer honestly. And that question is, your company will automate. The question is, will you be the one implementing it or the one being replaced by it? It's such a stark binary choice. And I know human beings, we hate binary choice. We love nuance. We love the gray area. We like maybe.
Of course.
But the economic data that we're seeing for 2026 doesn't leave a whole lot of room for maybe.
Okay, so let's set the scene with that data. Because I think if you just casually look at the stock market tickers or the headline news, everything looks fine, right?
On the surface, yes, absolutely. And this is what the sources are calling the white-collar recession, or my favorite term for it, the ghost boom of 2025 and 2026.
The ghost boom.
Yeah, because if you look at GDP, it's rising. If you look at corporate profits, they're robust. They're strong. And productivity is absolutely soaring. I mean, we're seeing numbers, productivity gains that we have not seen since the dot-com boom of the late 90s.
And this is the massive flashing red light, but hiring is dead.
It's just fallen off a cliff.
Yeah.
Specifically, hiring for professional roles, finance, tech, consulting, marketing.
Yeah.
What some people call the email jobs.
The laptop class.
The laptop class, exactly.
Yeah.
The data shows that while the output is going up, way up, the actual human headcount required to generate that output is either flatlining or, in many cases, dropping.
And that's an economic anomaly, isn't it? That's not how it's supposed to work.
It's not. Historically, the link has been direct. Companies make more money, they hire more people. That's been the engine of growth for decades. That link has now been broken.
And it's not just, the ruthless private equity firms doing this anymore, cutting to the bone. One of the most striking things in the research you shared is this thing called the DOGE initiative.
Ah, yes. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Right. Which, back in 2024, that sounded like a meme. It sounded like a joke.
It really did.
In 2025, it became a federal mandate. And now, in January 2026, it is official government policy.
And this is so important because regardless of your politics, left, right, center, you have to look at the signal that sends to the market.
For sure.
The stated explicit mandate of DOGE is to use AI to reduce federal headcount. Now think about that. The U.S. federal government is historically the slowest, most bloated, hardest to fire employer in the entire Western world.
The ultimate job security, right?
Exactly. So if they are now pivoting to an AI-first, headcount-second model to automate administrative burdens, that is the brightest green light you could possibly give to every single CEO in America.
It's like the canary in the coal mine, except the canary is a bald eagle and it's holding a pink slip.
That's a terrifying metaphor, but yes, that's pretty much it. It signals that this is the new baseline. This is the new reality. That old social contract of the white-collar office, the one that said if you show up, you do the paperwork, you'll get a pension.
Yeah.
That contract is being systematically rewritten.
Okay, so let's get into the hard numbers then. We need to ground this anxiety in data. Why is this happening so aggressively right now in 2026?
So the Surviving AI curriculum, it pulls its data from some really heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We're talking PwC, the World Economic Forum, recent labor reports. And the statistic that, it just jumps off the page is this. 40% of employers have explicitly planned workforce reductions in areas where AI can automate tasks.
40%, not thinking about it. Planned.
Yeah. As in, it's in a deck, it's on a spreadsheet, it has a project manager assigned to it. This is happening. And you can see the impact already when you look at job openings.
Okay.
Professional services job openings. They are at their lowest point since 2013.
Since 2013.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
We have wiped out more than a decade of job growth in terms of opportunity volume for these kinds of roles.
And if you're a young person just coming out of college,
Yeah.
the stats you sent over for entry-level hiring are they're brutal.
It is a full-blown crisis. There's no other word for it. Entry-level hiring is down 25% across the board. But if you isolate the big players, the large-cap tech companies, your Googles, your Metas, your Salesforces, it's down nearly 50%.
50. 1 out of every 2 jobs that existed a couple of years ago for a new grad at those companies is gone.
It's gone. And the broken rung of the career ladder that people talk about, it's real. It's here. Companies are realizing that the tasks they used to give to a 22-year-old, summarizing meetings, writing basic code, doing research, pulling data, all that stuff can now be done by an AI agent for fractions of a penny.
But it's not just the juniors, is it? It's not just the bottom of the ladder. There's a term in one of the Gartner reports that just gave me a chill. The term is unbossing.
Unbossing. It sounds so trendy, doesn't it? It sounds like uncoupling or unboxing. It's packaged to sound like a minimalist lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like unemployment to me.
It effectively is. What Gartner is predicting is that by the end of this year, 2026, 20% of organizations will actively use AI to flatten their organizational structures.
And who's the target of that flattening?
Middle management. The goal, the explicit goal, is to eliminate more than half of all current middle management positions.
More than half. So why? Why middle management specifically? I always thought of them as the glue that holds everything together, the ones who translate strategy into action.
And they were. For a long time, they were absolutely essential. But let's really break down what a middle manager does in a large corporate structure, day to day. They coordinate, they provide oversight, they check status reports, they assign tasks, they consolidate information from their team to report up to leadership.
They're information routers. They're human hubs.
Exactly. And what is AI? It is an infinitely better, faster, cheaper information router than a human being. An AI agent doesn't sleep, it doesn't play politics, it doesn't get sick, and it never, ever forgets to CC the VP on an important email.
So the squeeze is coming from both sides.
Both sides. From the bottom, the AI is doing the grunt work that the team used to do. From the top, AI is providing a real-time oversight dashboard that executives can look at. So the middleman, the manager, is simply no longer necessary in the same volume. Their core function has been automated.
That paints an incredibly grim picture, but we promised a survival guide, not an obituary. And to survive, you have to understand the terrain. You have to know what's actually happening. The source material lists what it calls a body count, real companies that have already pulled the trigger. And I think we need to walk through these case studies because there's a crucial nuance in one of them that might just be the key to saving our listeners' jobs.
You're talking about the Klarna backtrack.
I am. But before we get to the backtrack, we have to talk about the initial hit because for a while there, Klarna was the absolute poster child for this AI revolution.
They were. They made headlines globally. It was a huge story. Klarna came out and announced they had replaced 700 customer service agents with a proprietary AI system.
And the CEO was not shy about it.
Not at all. He went on television, he did interviews, and he said it led to these massive cost savings, that the customer service workforce shrank by 40%, and that the AI was doing the work faster and, he claimed, better than the humans it replaced.
It was the ultimate I told you so moment for the whole pro-automation crowd.
It was. It was the proof of concept. And you saw other companies immediately follow suit. It was like a dam breaking. Duolingo offboarded 10% of its contractors to pivot to AI translation.
We saw IBM announce their halting hiring for 800 back office roles.
Huge numbers. UPS cut 20,000 workers, specifically citing machine learning as an enabler. You had Blue Focus in China, a marketing agency, that just ended contracts for all their copywriters, saying generative AI was taking over.
And Dukan in India, that e-commerce company, fired 90% of their support staff. The trend was just crystal clear. Fire the humans, install the software, and watch the stock price go up.
That was the playbook.
But then Klarna hit a wall. And I think this is, hands down, the most fascinating part in the entire curriculum.
It is the most important data point we have right now. Because after that initial victory lap, after all the glowing press, Klarna started to realize something was wrong.
What was it?
Service quality dropped. Customer dissatisfaction shot up. The metrics that actually matter for a business long-term started to go red. And the question was why? Because on paper, the AI was a superstar.
Right. It was closing tickets faster than ever.
And that's the key. Efficiency does not equal effectiveness.
Say more about that. That feels critical.
It is. The AI was brilliant at handling the simple high-volume questions. What is my balance? When is my payment due? It could answer those instantly. But for any complex issue, a fraud dispute, a genuinely angry customer who needed empathy, an edge case that wasn't in the training data, the AI failed. Miserably.
Handle the nuance.
It couldn't handle the human element. And so Klarna actually had to start rehiring human agents. They had to bring people back.
That is the glimmer of hope. That's the signal in the noise.
It is the entire counter-narrative. The displacement is real, yes. We can't pretend it isn't. But the Klarna example proves that the human in the loop remains absolutely vital. The companies that are cutting too deep, too fast, they're finding out they broke their own businesses. They didn't just cut the fat. They cut the muscle and the bone along with it.
So the lesson for anyone listening is, don't try to compete with the AI on speed or volume. You will lose that fight every single time.
Every time.
You have to compete on complexity, compete on judgment, compete on empathy.
You have to be the human who keeps the machine from crashing the car. That is a defensible, valuable position. And what's really interesting is there's this data to support that this isn't just about survival. There's actually a massive upside for the people who figure this out.
And you're referring to the productivity stats from that Stanford and MIT study.
Yes. This study is absolutely mind-blowing. They went into a real-world company and measured the impact. They found that generative AI boosted worker productivity by 14% on average.
Which is a big deal in itself.
A huge deal. But that's not the real story. The real story was who benefited. It wasn't the senior experts, the people who had been there for 20 years.
It was the entry-level and the inexperienced workers. They saw the biggest jump.
A massive jump. Up to 35% productivity gains for the least experienced workers. It effectively leveled them up. It took a novice and, with the help of AI, gave them the performance of a senior employee in a matter of weeks. The AI bridged the gap between I don't know and I'm competent.
And that leads directly to the money, right?
Yeah.
The PwC 2025 Global AI Jobs Barometer found this concept of a wage premium.
This is the aha moment for everyone listening. This is the opportunity, jobs that require AI skills. And we are not talking about being a PhD in machine learning. We're just talking about knowing how to use these tools in your daily workflow.
Right.
Those jobs are seeing a 25% wage premium on average.
25% more.
And some markets like Singapore, it's up to 56%. 56.
So the message is, if you can cross this chasm, if you can learn to leverage these tools, you don't just get to keep your job. You get a significant raise.
You become what the curriculum calls a super employee. You're doing the work of what used to be 3 people. So paying you 25% more is still an incredible bargain for the company. You've made yourself more valuable, not less.
Okay, so let's talk about how to cross that chasm, because that's the billion-dollar question. The Surviving AI script outlines this framework of 3 types of employees. And I want to walk through these because I think everyone listening will immediately identify themselves, or at least their colleagues, in one of these buckets.
A very useful mirror. The 3 types are the resistors, the adapters, and the champions.
Let's start with the resistors. I think we all know a resistor. I've been a resistor on certain things.
Oh, we all have. The resistor's core mindset is denial. It's rooted in fear or arrogance or just inertia. They're the ones saying things like, AI can't do my job is special, or it makes too many mistakes, or my favorite, I prefer to write my own emails because it feels more personal.
Right. They're focused on how things used to be.
Exactly. Their behavior is refusal. They won't learn the tools. They wait for the company to force them to mandate some training that they'll resent. They wait for the change to happen to them.
And in January 2026, what is the outcome for the resistor?
They are the first to go. In any restructuring, they are looked at as legacy cost. They are a liability. The source script has this amazing line. It describes them as the past preserved in amber. They are fighting a gravity problem. You cannot win a fight against the economics of zero marginal cost labor.
Okay, so that's the resistor. Then you have the adapters. This feels like the safe middle ground where I think most people probably are right now.
It feels safe, but it's deceptively dangerous. The adapter's mindset is, okay, I need to keep up. They see the writing on the wall, so they learn the tools because they're told to. They'll use ChatGPT to summarize a long meeting transcript or to write a polite rejection email to a vendor.
They're using it to be more productive at their existing job.
Exactly. And their outcome is safety for now. Their job is probably secure, but they are treading water. They are letting the wave push them along rather than learning how to surf on top of it.
But the curriculum argues pretty forcefully that in 2026, being an adapter isn't a safe enough place to be. You have to become a champion.
Correct. The champion has a fundamentally different mindset. They don't say, I need to keep up. They say, I will lead this change. They don't wait for a memo from HR telling them to use Microsoft Copilot.
They're proactive.
Wildly proactive. They become the expert before anyone asks them to. They're the ones training others. They're the ones proposing new AI-driven initiatives. They're the ones who see a broken manual process in their department and figure out how to automate it.
So what's the outcome for the champion?
Promotion. New opportunities. They literally create new roles for themselves. They become the AI implementation lead for their team or the head of automated workflows. They make themselves indispensable because they don't just do the work anymore. They own the process of how the work gets done.
I love that line from the notes that really stuck with me. Don't ask for permission to worry, ask for resources to improve the team.
That is the entire mindset shift. It's moving from a place of victimhood, where this is happening to you, to a place of agency where you are making it happen.
So let's get tactical. Let's make this real. If I'm sitting at my desk right now listening to this, and I'm having that uncomfortable realization that I've probably been a resistor or maybe just a passive adapter, how do I become a champion? The source material offers a very concrete Champion Playbook, a 6-month action plan.
And this is a strict regimen. This is not a casual suggestion. It's a workout plan for your career. Phase 1 is months 1 and 2, and the goal is to become the expert. The rule here is very specific. Pick 3 tools, and not just 3 different chatbots. Pick one general text tool, like a ChatGPT or a Claude. Then pick one industry-specific tool, something built for finance or marketing or law. And then critically, pick one automation tool, like a Zapier or a Make.
And once you have your 3 tools,
You use them daily.
daily is the key word, not just when I remember or when I have a big project.
Every single day. If it is not part of your daily workflow, it's a toy. You have to build the neural pathways in your own brain to reach for the AI first, not as a last resort. You have to make it a habit.
Okay, that's months 1 and 2. What's phase 2?
Month 3 and 4 is where you share the knowledge. You have to pivot from being a learner to being a teacher.
Even if you don't feel like an expert yet.
Especially if you don't feel like an expert yet. Volunteer to train your team. Create a simple 1-page guide on 5 prompts to help our team analyze sales data, or how to use AI to draft first-pass client reports.
Why is teaching so important at this stage?
It does 2 things. First, it cements your own knowledge. The best way to learn something is to teach it. But second, and maybe more importantly, it positions you politically within the company. When the executives are in a meeting and they say, who on the ground understands this AI stuff? You want them to think of your name. You want to become the go-to person, the node of expertise on your team.
Right, you become a resource.
You become a resource. And then finally, phase 3, months 5 and 6. This is where you lead implementation. You're no longer just teaching, you're doing. You proactively propose a pilot project. You build a business case for it. You write a 1-page memo that says, I believe if we use this specific tool to automate this specific process, we can save X hours per week and improve quality by Y%. I'd like to run a 2-week pilot with my team.
You stop being just a worker bee and you start being a strategist. You're thinking like a manager.
You're thinking like a business owner.
That is a solid, actionable roadmap. But I know what the listeners are thinking right now. They're thinking, that sounds great for a project manager or maybe a tech lead, but I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm in sales. We need to get into the role-specific survival strategies because the risk profile is not the same for everyone.
No, it is wildly different. The threat and the opportunity look completely different depending on your job title. So let's do the white-collar breakdown.
All right, let's start with the classic office job. Finance and accounting, the bean counters.
The risk here is high. Very high. If your job is primarily transactional, we're talking bookkeeping, reconciliations, invoice processing, moving data from one Excel sheet to another, AI is coming for that work. It is faster, it is cheaper, it is more accurate, and it doesn't make typos at 3 in the morning.
So what is the survival strategy for an accountant?
You have to move up the value chain. You have to move from bookkeeping to advisory. You use the AI to do the math, to crunch the numbers, but you use your human brain for judgment and strategy. You stop being the person who makes the spreadsheet, and you become the person who explains what the spreadsheet means for the business.
So you're telling the story behind the numbers.
Exactly. You tell the client what the cash flow statement means for their upcoming acquisition strategy. You become a relationship manager who happens to speak the language of math.
Okay, what about the legal profession? We've been hearing about AI passing the bar exam for years now. Is it finally here?
It's here, and it's creating an existential crisis for the traditional law firm model, because the whole billable hour model for junior associates is dying. A first-year associate used to spend, 2,000 hours a year doing document review for discovery.
Mind-numbing work, but that's how they learned.
And it's how the firm made a ton of money. An AI agent can now do that same work in a matter of minutes, not months.
So if I'm a junior associate right now, am I just completely toast?
You're toast if you try to bill for research time. That's a losing game. You have to pivot to the things that AI can't do. Negotiation, courtroom presence and performance, building deep, trusting client relationships. You have to rebrand yourself as the AI-powered lawyer who delivers 10 hours of research value in just 1 hour of work. And then you have to convince the firm to move to value-based pricing, not time-based billing.
That is a huge shift. Okay, let's talk about marketing and content. This feels like the absolute front line of this whole battle.
It is ground zero, there's no question. Volume content writing, basic SEO, blog posts, simple ad copy, social media captions, that is a commodity now. The price of producing basic words has effectively gone to zero.
So what does a copywriter do in 2026?
They have to shift their identity. They have to go from being a writer to being an AI content director.
A director.
Yes. You stop digging the ditch by hand, and you start operating the excavator. You are the editor-in-chief of a fleet of AI agents. You set the strategy, you define the brand voice, you perfect the prompts, you edit and refine the output. But you let the AI generate the raw text. You scale your own output by directing the tools, not by typing faster.
And data analysts, that seems safe, right? Data is everything.
It's safer, but the role is changing. The grunt work of data analysis, cleaning data, running standard regression models, that's being rapidly automated by AutoML tools.
So what's the survival strategy there?
It's about problem framing. The AI can give you the answer to any question you ask it, but it can't tell you which business question is the right one to ask in the first place. That's where the human value lies, in understanding the business context, formulating the right hypothesis, and interpreting the results in a way that leads to a smart business decision.
And what about HR, human resources?
HR is a tale of two cities. The administrative side payroll, benefits administration, interview scheduling, that has a 70 to 85% automation risk. It's highly procedural. But the strategic side complex, employee relations, difficult investigations, building company culture, executive coaching, that's very, very safe. So the pivot path is clear. Get away from the paperwork and get closer to the people work.
Now, I want to spend a good moment on sales, because the research you provided had this really detailed, nuanced breakdown of the sales spectrum. It's not just a simple case of sales is safe because it's a people business.
No, and this is a critical distinction that a lot of people are missing. At the very top of the risk spectrum, what the curriculum calls critical risk, you have your SDRs and BDRs, sales development reps, business development reps.
People making the cold calls and sending the cold emails to book meetings.
Exactly. Their job has a 60 to 75% automation risk.
Why so high?
Because we now have AI voice agents that sound perfectly human. They can handle objections from a script. They can check a senior salesperson's calendar via an API and book a meeting. That entire job function is on the verge of disappearing. Transactional sales roles like selling simple insurance policies or residential real estate, that's also in the high-risk category.
But there is a safe harbor in the world of sales.
A very safe one. Enterprise, B2B sales. Technical sales engineers, people selling complex, multi-million-dollar software solutions. The risk there drops all the way down to 15 to 30%.
So what's the huge difference? Why is that so much safer?
Trust and complexity. High-stakes deals require trust. They require navigating the politics of multiple stakeholders. You have to convince the CFO, the CTO, the head of engineering, and the end user. An AI cannot take a nervous CEO out to a steak dinner, look them in the eye, and give them the personal reassurance that this $10 million investment is the right move for their company.
So the pivot path for salespeople is to move up market.
Absolutely. You have to move from simple transactional sales to complex relationship-based sales. Or another very smart move is to pivot into customer success management, because retaining an existing multi-million-dollar client is often safer and more relationship-driven than acquiring a new one.
I want to circle back to middle management for a second because we touched on this idea of unbossing. If you are a middle manager right now listening to this and you're feeling that squeeze, what is your move?
You have to fundamentally redefine your value proposition. The old value was, I watch the people to make sure they do their work. That is gone. The AI dashboard does that now.
So what's the new value?
The new value is, I facilitate the collaboration between the humans on my team and the AI tools we use. Deloitte has a great term for this. They say, managers must shift from being a leader of people to being a leader of work.
A leader of work.
Yes. You're not just managing people, you're orchestrating resources, both human and digital. You're a coach, a strategist, and a process designer. If you are just a gatekeeper or a status checker, you are redundant.
We've covered a lot of the what to do. Now let's talk about the what to look for, the red flags. Because I think people are often blindsided by layoffs, but in hindsight, the signs were almost always there.
The signs are always there if you know what to look for. And the source script lists some very specific ones to watch out for in your own company.
What's number one?
Number one, look at who the company is hiring externally. If they suddenly bring in a team of AI transformation consultants from a big firm, that is a major signal. They're not there to make your life easier.
No, they're there to find efficiencies.
And efficiency is almost always corporate code for reducing payroll. So that's one. Number two, an entry-level hiring freeze. If a company stops hiring juniors, it's a very clear sign that they are planning to shrink overall headcount through attrition over time.
They're not replacing the people who leave.
Exactly. Number three is language. You have to listen carefully to what leadership says in town halls. If they start using phrases like doing more with less or unlocking operational efficiency in the same sentence as artificial intelligence, that is not a coincidence. That is code for a planned headcount reduction.
And the fourth one. This one feels particularly insidious.
It's the big trap. Number four is if your specific tasks are suddenly being studied or documented extensively. If your manager comes to you and says, hey, can you write down exactly how you do this process step by step with screenshots?
You should be worried.
You should be very worried, because often that documentation you are creating is literally the training data for the AI that is being built to replace that very task.
That is genuinely chilling. It's like you're being asked to dig your own grave.
It is. But if you're a champion, remember the playbook. You're the one who writes the documentation, and you're the one who proposes the automation yourself. You control the narrative. You're not the victim of the process. You're the leader of it.
We talked a bit about the entry-level crisis, but I want to go a little deeper on this concept of the expert-novice disconnect. Because this doesn't just feel like a problem for new grads. It feels like a systemic risk for the whole economy down the line. If juniors don't get hired to do the grunt work, how do they ever become experts?
This is the billion-dollar question that I don't think any company has a good answer for yet. Traditionally, the apprenticeship model was clear. You learned by doing the boring stuff. As a young lawyer, you reviewed thousands of contracts. As a young analyst, you crunched the numbers in 1,000 spreadsheets. That's how you built intuition and pattern recognition.
Your reps.
The reps. And if AI is now doing all the boring reps, that learning ladder has missing rungs. How do you get to be a senior partner if you never did the work of a junior associate?
So what is the advice from the curriculum for a recent grad who's listening to this? They did everything right, they got the degree, but the job market they were promised is frozen solid.
The advice is tough, but it's clear. Do not rely on your degree. The degree has become a commodity. You have to build a portfolio of AI-assisted projects. You have to show what the curriculum calls high agency.
So don't just say, I studied marketing.
No. You say, I used ChatGPT and Midjourney to build a full marketing campaign for a local nonprofit. I then used an AI tool to analyze the data, and I used those insights to optimize the campaign, which resulted in a 15% increase in donations.
You have to prove that you are already an AI-enabled worker before you even get the first job.
Exactly. You have to skip the traditional apprenticeships phase and jump straight to the value creation phase. It's unfair, but it's the new reality of the job market in 2026.
This all has a huge psychological impact. The sources mention this term, the AI precariat. What is that?
It's a sociological term. A precariat is a social class of people who are living in a state of constant unpredictability and insecurity without a stable occupational identity. The AI precariat refers to this new, growing class of white-collar professionals who used to feel incredibly secure. They had the degree, the good salary, the social status, and suddenly that stability has vanished from under them.
It's an identity crisis on a massive scale.
It is. If you spent 10 years of your life training to become a writer or a coder, and now a machine can do that core task instantly, who are you? The loss of occupational identity is a profound psychological blow. We are going to see a lot of burnout, anxiety, and existential dread among this group.
And this connects to that economic concept mentioned in the Salesforce DevOps source, the law of infinite scale.
This is the cold, hard economic engine that's driving all of this change. In the past, to make more money, a company usually had to hire more people. Revenue and headcount were coupled together.
Growth meant hiring.
The law of infinite scale says that with AI and automation, companies can now decouple that relationship. They can scale their operations, their revenue, their profits, theoretically infinitely without adding a single new human employee.
Which brings us right back to the survival guide. We know the risks, we know the red flags, we know the strategies, but how do we actually talk about this at work? Let's say I've done the work, I'm using the tools, I'm ready to be a champion. How do I tell my boss without sounding like I'm trying to automate my own job out of existence?
The communication strategy is everything. The script outlines a very clear bad pitch versus a good pitch. The bad pitch is fear-based. It's running into your manager's office and saying, AI is coming for our jobs, we're all doomed, we need to do something.
That just makes you sound like a panic spreader.
It does. It makes you sound like part of the problem.
Yeah.
The good pitch is value-based and solution-oriented. It's, hey, I've been testing this new tool on the side. I used it on the quarterly report, and it saved me 20 hours of manual work. I've documented the process, and I want to run a small pilot to see if we can scale this across the team.
You're not bringing a problem, you're bringing a solution that involves you leading it.
Precisely. You are the agent of change, not the victim of it.
And to back that pitch up, you need data. The curriculum talks about keeping an AI impact log.
Yes. I love this idea. It's so simple and so powerful. It's just a simple spreadsheet that you keep for yourself religiously. In it, you document 4 things for every task you use AI on: the task, the tool used, the time saved, and a quality assessment.
Why is this personal log so important?
It is your career insurance policy. If a manager ever asks what you've been doing, or if a company's looking at who to cut in a layoff, you can hand them a document that says, this quarter, I personally saved the department 500 hours of labor and an estimated $50,000 in productivity costs. That makes you mathematically difficult to fire.
Mathematically difficult to fire. I like that phrase.
It's the only real safety net that's left. Your value has to be quantifiable.
Okay, we are coming up on the hour, and I want to make sure we leave our listeners with that very concrete challenge from the source material, the 30-day Champion Challenge.
This is for anyone who wants to stop worrying and start acting like on Monday morning. It breaks the whole process down by week. Week 1 is personal mastery. Pick those 3 tools we talked about, use them every single day until it's second nature.
Week 2.
Week 2 is create a guide. Take what you learned in week 1 and teach someone else on your team how to do it. Write that 1-page guide. This is how you start positioning yourself as an expert.
Week 3 is when you make the move.
Week 3 is propose a pilot. You build that business case we talked about. You use the data from your own work to make a compelling argument for a small-scale test.
And finally, week 4.
Week 4 is go public. Host a brown bag lunch and learn for your department. And critically, add a new line to your resume in your LinkedIn profile. Led pilot program for AI implementation, resulting in a 20% efficiency gain. You have to claim the credit.
It sounds so simple when you break it down like that, but it really requires consistency and overcoming that initial fear.
It requires getting over the fear that if I show them how efficient this is, they won't need me anymore. The reality in 2026 is if you don't show them, they will hire an external consultant who will, and then they really won't need you. You have to own the process. There's no other choice.
So summarizing everything we've covered today, the economy is in this strange place. High growth, low hiring for white-collar jobs. The unbossing of middle management is real and accelerating. The only viable strategy is to move from being a resistor to an adapter and ultimately to a champion.
And the key is to be the human who directs the AI, not the human who tries to compete with it on tasks.
That's it. Stop resisting. Start adapting. And frankly, start leading. The gap between the people who know how to use these tools and the people who don't is widening every single day. You need to make sure you're on the right side of that gap.
Absolutely.
And there is one more option we haven't really discussed, isn't there? We spent this whole hour talking about how to keep your job. But what if the job itself is the trap?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? If the value of selling your labor is systematically being devalued by technology, maybe selling your labor is no longer the winning move.
And that sets us up perfectly for our next deep dive. Next time, we are diving into episode 10 of the curriculum, Business Ownership, the Only Job AI Can't Take if you do it right, because if you can't join them,
You better own the machine that beats them.
that's the goal. Thank you all for listening to Surviving AI. This has been the deep dive on corporate survival. Good luck out there, and seriously, get started on that 30-day challenge. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time on Surviving AI.